So streaming is running. So don't say anything you don't want somebody to hear.
Okay, we're live. Disagree with what you
Yeah, very much.
The end of the last meeting.
It was way too long of a meeting.
Got freezing last year.
All right, that's better for
It
me.
was super cold. I look at Bella and I go,
Keeps us
go adjust
Yeah.
it. I saw you put on your
It's
sweater.
always cold in here, that's why I wear it. Except tonight, it's not cold.
It's comfortable.
These are longer.
Wait for an hour. And they're cold.
Quite as hot.
I was fine at the beginning, but I didn't
This Grove's chair. He's short. Really, doesn't it?
Another couple of months to have hands.
Remember that?
I do.
Yeah. Here's chapter one.
Hi, Heather. Oh, hi.
Lewis is not on it.
Hello.
That would be my take on the stack of letters.
Yeah, that's why we do. Like I said, we're not doing, we're taking any action, so we're going to lay at home. But actually.
Did you get new glasses?
No, I just put my hair up because I'm done with my COVID hair. I need a haircut. Is that what we're calling it? COVID
Yeah.
hair? We're no longer having bad hair days, we're having COVID hair. Okay, I can't see my hair. I have no
Take
more.
care of it. At least
Lisa,
on the top.
this is Christina Pierce.
Especially on top.
Hello.
Christine? Get the, I'll get that one
Hello.
there.
Hi, Lisa.
Yeah, excellent.
I wasn't sure if you were gonna need anything out of the file, so I brought it just in case. So I'm like,
Just look at it.
oh, sure.
He's
like, Yeah, let me know if there's anything that should not be in there. Now you're good? Yes. Now you're fine, that we
Yes.
talked about.
Good.
Put a couple of pretty ones.
I know at least his first name, you just go back. Sorry, no. Hi, nice to meet you. Good to meet you. That's the old one. I know, I got it.
So I have both at home.
Don't take it personally. Okay.
We're trying to,
And then the video and audio.
It's always
Okay, perfect.
Okay, that would be good. And I will put all the results on paper and I will put them in. And then
Basically, right now, yes.
Let's get it done by 8.
But if I'm gone, everything will be run.
Feeling good?
And I'll skip that.
Good.
Take care of it.
Like tonight?
Yeah, I mean, if like, say, if your meeting goes after 9, I have to leave for about 15 to 20 minutes.
Tomorrow?
So you see over there, it's over there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, in a while. Haven't been able to just wait often than I used to.
And you have to see if I can.
I might listen to some of it. I don't know how it usually goes.
Oh, I got it right here.
So we are,
Cool. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, we're rolling along with it.
have it on live cast, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know,
Oh,
I mean,
yeah,
I feel bad. They don't have any equipment, but like, texted Steve, he texted me the other day, he said, hey, what's going on? I'm like, oh, we're getting busy. That's you out there too. So,
Yeah. But good that he's moving fast.
You're welcome.
Nice to meet you.
it's good to meet you.
As soon as we got over, I think I'll do that right to go around.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, my husband has to have a procedure tomorrow. Yeah, home late tonight. I know, it's just but then nobody seen any of the animals.
Yeah, I know.
To a pass.
It is.
Seven or 8 seconds.
She's like, give me the real.
Oh, I'm on camera and I don't. Yes.
Do you want to put, we had a meeting, you guys want to put even if we have
All right, we will call to order the regular meeting of June 11th, 2020 of the Trinity County Planning Commission. Start public comment. During the public comment period, members of the public may address the planning commission on any matters not listed on the agenda that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the planning commission. Would anybody like to speak?
My name's Christina Pierce, and this is Jimmy Allen, and we're here as a part of Hayfork Transition. We're working on a rezone in Hayfork, and this is a proposed map of what our rezone is, and we formed this corporation, a nonprofit corporation, to try to bring new benefits to the Hayfork community. And in the process of this, we have taken on a property that's in your district, Dan. It's contiguous to the swinging bridge. It's called the Riverview. Used to be known as the pig farm. It had agriculture there for many years. And a lady bought it, and she got brain cancer, and her sister inherited it upon her death, and she lived in Northwest Territory of Canada, so the property was pretty much abandoned for a number of years, and so we have a lease on it, and we want to have educational and agricultural opportunities in the community orchard for the public. So that's what we're working on, and so we have submitted as the beginning of January this year our application for the SUD guidelines to do that, along with various other little projects. And so, in the meantime, we have, because this property was abandoned, it had numerous dead vehicles on it, lots of trash. We've already had one public cleanup. We removed 7 tons of trash. And we've taken away some of the cars. But we also applied for a Cal Recycle grant, which we were fortunate to be awarded. And we have to get our rezone finished before we can accept that grant and go ahead with it. And to explain that is the grant director, which is Amelia, and she's right here, and she'll take over.
Hello, my name's Amelia Flights. I'm with the Trinity County Resource Conservation District. I'm one of their project coordinators. We have applied for $50,000 to utilize for the purpose of cleaning up this property to help further their vision. That funding is in hand and available at any time, and does run out in March of 2021. So we're hoping to implement this as soon as possible and get this property cleaned up and on its way to being a beautiful community center. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. John Brown from Jackson City. I just want to thank staff for bringing this reading of the retail ordinance. It's great we're moving forward with this. And want to encourage the development of some other really important ordinances. One would be the equity ordinance, which is crucial for our county moving forward. And also the county still lacks a processing license type to be available in Trinity County. So it's another CDFA license type, not BCC. And it's another essential license type that we should be able to offer now. That and of course Class K housing ability is also desired, and we know you guys have your hands full. I just want to make sure those things are on the radar. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone on Zoom who would like to weigh in on?
Is this a retail? I just walked in
public
from
comment?
Is it the retail?
No, this is initial public comment, things that are not on the
okay,
agenda.
sorry.
Okay, hearing none. We will close public comment. And yeah, those of you on Zoom, if you would like to speak, raise your hand and make yourself known so we can call on you. We can move on, I guess, to agenda item number 1.
So good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, and members of the public, everyone listening in. My name is Lisa Lozier. I'm the Deputy Director of Planning, and I will be presenting agenda item number 1, which is an extension of time for Tyler Thomas and Holly Hayes. So this project is located in the Sawyer Burnt Ranch area. Existing general plan designation is rural residential. Existing zone district, rural residential with a 5-acre minimum, and it has a mobile home overlay. And existing land uses on that property are 1 single-family residence and accessory structures. So a little bit of background on this. The Planning Commission originally approved the tentative parcel map number P-16-25, which was for a 2-parcel land division of approximately 15.4 acres. And that was for the creation of 2 residential parcels, and that project was approved on June 8th of 2017. So the initial approval for that map is 2 years. And so the expiration date of that was for June 8th of 2019. So Mr. Thompson applied for, on March 8th of 2019, Mr. Thompson applied for an additional 1-year extension of time, which was granted by Planning Commission on April 11th, 2019, and set to expire June 8th of 2020. So that brings us to today's request. And Mr. Thompson filed for our current project, which is P-20-15 on May 4th, 2020. And staff is recommending a 2-year extension of time to June 2022 to allow the applicant time to work with the Department of Transportation and CAL FIRE in order to complete the conditions, the other conditions of approval with the original resolution, which was 2017-02. And that is attachment 2 in your packet. So for extensions of time, those for an environmental determination, extensions of time are considered exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act. That's General Rule Exemption 15061B3, which exempts activities where it can be seen with certainty that there's no possibility of causing a significant effect on the environment. And that is just for the extension of time. So based on the information that has been supplied by the applicant, information available to the planning staff from the existing tentative parcel map P-1625, that is consistent with the requirements of the State Subdivision Map Act, consistent with the Trinity County Subdivision Ordinance Code Section 1616.050. So staff would like to recommend for the Planning Commission that you conduct a public hearing, close the public hearing, and adopt a resolution to find that the extension of time is not subject to the California Environmental Quality Act, and adopt the recommended findings listed in Resolution 2020-06, and approve a 2-year extension of time, P-20-15, for tentative map P-16-25, based on the recommended findings and subject to the conditions of approval listed in Planning Commission Resolution 2017-02. And that concludes my presentation. I would be glad to answer questions for you.
Any questions of staff? Okay, we will open the public comment on agenda item number 1.
All right, good evening, Tyler Thompson from Burnt Ranch. I was before you guys about the same time a year ago, and we appreciate the extension again. Also, I'd like to ask in advance, this project may be becoming, or may be being presented to you to encourage some action from the Department of Transportation. I have pretty much completed all of the requirements, minus a few minor exemptions that were being asked for due to some constraints with the neighbor's fence and so forth. CAL FIRE seemed very happy with the situation. The local volunteer fire department seemed very happy with it. I've completed $15,000 worth of road work on it. Provided all the info several times to environmental health, in regards to septic, improvement of water, and so forth. So I appreciate the extension. I also furiously hope that 2 years is not necessary, as this is already for a fairly simple lot split planting. But I do realize that they have to meet the criteria. I feel like I've pretty much made that happen. So in advance, hopefully some encouragement from you guys might be able to help see it through and completed, not on your agenda again in 2 years. So yeah, thank you much.
Mr. Thompson?
Yeah.
So if I understand what you're saying, you think you've complied with the conditions of approval, and you're waiting on the county at this point?
That is correct. I have completed the conditions to the best of my ability. Like I said, we are asking for a couple of, I don't know if they were termed exemption, there were exemptions. Modifications. There may have been a different term with it, but yes, something along those lines, where constraints due to some neighbors fencing on the road width, and that created some additional turnouts. It's been discussed, somewhat extensively, I think, between Trinity Valley Consulting Engineers and DOT, but just hasn't really quite come to a consensus on whether or not that's going to be sufficient. CAL FIRE, when I had them out there, has seemed to be very happy with how it was done, or how it was going to be done. I went ahead and actually completed the work, even without the final map being approved, because I, for one, wanted an improved road, as well as I just, with the weather and so forth, did it at the end of last summer, hoping that I wouldn't be before you guys today, knowing that I wouldn't be able to get it done before the, April 15th or May 15th, environmental constraints with all the, heavy, if it wasn't heavy grading, I wouldn't say, but just with erosion control and so forth. So I went ahead and did it. That may have not made some people super happy to ask forgiveness instead of permission. Either way, it was an existing road. I have the easement to improve the road if I so wished. I just did it to the standards that were being requested. So, and yes, I've provided the information several times to environmental health. I believe to this point, it still hasn't been signed off. It's quite simple. There's two existing septic systems, enrollment in a community water system, and permanent wells that provide substantial water. Septic, 15 acres, so it's really not difficult to find septic, but there are two functioning systems. I do see some new faces here that I've actually had response with. I know the files have been reviewed more quickly, so I'm hoping that as it moves forward, we'll be able to.
So the 2-year extension wasn't your idea?
Correct.
Because you've got all that, so why are we asking for 2? Is DOT asking for 2 years to get this done?
Actually, the request for 2 years was mine.
Yeah.
And that was based on my conversations with Andy at Department of Transportation. And at that point in time, I wasn't sure who my contact with CAL FIRE was, and unable to verify where they were standing as far as completing the map. And if there is additional road work that needs to be done, based on, the weather changing, through the fall, and not knowing when we were going to come to an agreement as to what those improvements ought to be, I felt that it was prudent to ask for 2 years to give them plenty of time.
Yeah, and I would rather not pay every year if it does take 2 as well. So I hope that it doesn't take 2, but I do appreciate the extension of time, being that if it ends up being necessary. So
I'm not pushing back on 2 years. I just wanted to make sure DOT is not going to take 2 years because they can.
right. I mean, either way, it would be on me to reapply and so forth. So yeah, I also thought the same. I had a similar thought, but I also would rather not come here next year and hope that it's approved before then, or finalize before then and so forth. I have not completed all the work. There's some paving required where it connects to county roads, set in stone, so to speak, once you pave it. So I was hoping to get like a yes, thumbs up, go ahead and get the asphalt on, but I didn't want to do that until there was some sort of census, so. And ideally, that would be this summer while the Willow Creek plant is operational, because when they shut it down, they're not gonna fire it up for a whole project like mine, so.
Thank you for clarification.
Yeah. Anything else, Ian?
Yeah,
Thank you much.
all right. Does anyone else wish to speak on agenda item number 1? Anyone on Zoom? All right. We will close public comment and bring it back to the commission.
I have no comments, but I move go ahead and make a motion. I move that we adopt a resolution defining that the extension of time is not subject to California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, under the general rule exemption 15061B3, which exempts activities where it can be seen with certainty that there is no possibility of causing a significant effect on the environment, and B, adopt the recommended findings listed in Resolution 2020-6, and C, approve a 2-year extension of time, P-20-15 for tentative map, P-16-25, based on the recommended findings and subject to the conditions of approval listed in Planning Commission Resolution number 2017-02.
We have a motion.
A second.
A motion and a second. We'll need to do a roll call vote because this is a resolution, so.
Yes, roll call.
Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry. Commissioner McHugh,
Aye.
Commissioner Matthews,
Aye.
Commissioner Stewart,
Aye.
Sheriff Frazier.
Aye. Motion carries. All right. Moving on. Agenda item number 2. Yeah.
Good evening, Commissioners, members of the public. I'm Kim Hunter, Building and Planning Director, and I'll be presenting this item tonight. Before I get started, there were comments received, quite a few comments received in the last 2 days. They've been supplied to the Commissioners. They have been supplied to the Commissioners, however, the copy machine was not helping the situation, so I was able to get 4 copies out and no more. This document's been scanned and it will be posted online tomorrow morning on the website with all the comments that have been received. Also, these letters were received from Underwood Law Offices. This letter is included in the packet, but they did supply extra copies, so I'm handing those to you as well, Commissioners. Okay, the item before you this evening, item 2 on the agenda is draft ordinance for retail, cannabis retail storefront use. At this time, staff is seeking direction regarding the proposed ordinance, but is not recommending that the Planning Commission take action on the draft ordinance at this time. Adequate time must be provided for the public to review the draft and fully participate in the ordinance development and the adoption process, which has been limited by COVID-19 during the last 3 months. Therefore, staff recommends that the Planning Commission this evening receives a brief staff presentation, conducts a public hearing to receive public comments, open the public hearing, close the public hearing, provide direction to staff, and then continue this item to either the July 9th, 2020 meeting or a later date uncertain. The project background is that this is a draft proposed cannabis retail storefront ordinance, as previously mentioned. The ordinance proposes to establish regulations for storefront retail sales of cannabis products in Trinity County. And at this time, I am not going to go into a detailed staff report because the item will be continued. I do want to say that this draft ordinance is It's a collaborative work. It combines several example ordinances from other communities, including the city of Lake Shasta and the city of Ukiah. It's very hard to find county storefront ordinances. There are not too many around that were worth plagiarizing, to be honest. So this is you'll see, it's taking from other ordinances what we felt would be a good fit for Trinity County and putting a draft together. This is a good first step for the conversation and discussion. Right now, the ordinance proposes that there be a commercial cannabis retail license permit type, not required by a CUP, allowed in C1, C2. So we have retail, commercial, general commercial, highway commercial, HC, and heavy commercial, which is the C3. Those are the proposed zones. There is no cap or limit on the number of dispensaries as presented in the draft ordinance. And we can go over any other items you'd like to regarding the specifics of that. With the comments received, we received 36 comments within the last 48 hours on this. Most of the comments were from citizens of the Lewiston area, making it very clear that the Lewiston community does not care to have retail commercial uses within the existing opt-out zone. The opt-out zone was created for cultivation, but there's references in almost every letter received that Lewiston community would rather not have any retail in their opt-out area. There are comments about not allowing retail storefronts for cannabis in historic districts, not in the C1 or C2 zones. That there should be a cap on the number of storefront cannabis retail operations. There was quite a few comments, and again, this is a brief look. Staff did not have a chance to really dig into these comments, and that's why I'm not going to go into an in-depth staff report this evening. But this was just a brief look. Increase of setbacks from youth-oriented and sensitive facilities such as churches, schools, parks, sensitive uses, and that storefront retail uses should require a conditional use permit. And so that's just a quick, brief summary of some of the comments received. Again, most of those comments were from the Lewiston area and are included in your packets, and they will be posted online tomorrow morning. I'm going to stop there and then answer any questions you have. And I am seeking direction, public comment, and direction from the Planning Commission this evening. Thank you.
We can't hear back here, I don't know.
It's a technical
We're having
issue.
technical
Oh,
difficulties
gotcha.
with Zoom. Do we need to address the Zoom issue or start?
No, we should not take a break.
All right, well, commissioners, do you have any questions of staff regarding agenda item number 2?
I have a question. What was the reasoning behind the sales must only take place between 6 a.m. and, yeah, 6 a.m. seems a little early.
It's bright and early.
Well, let's give them more time than it's usually 10 a.m.
You might want to get up late work.
That is quite early. After reviewing other, dispensaries in other communities, generally they open at 9. It seems much more reasonable. So yeah, that would be something we can definitely change.
Okay, I just was wondering if there was any rationale behind it.
No, there was
Okay.
not.
Okay.
Any other questions of staff? With that, we will open public comment on agenda item number 2.
Good evening, Good evening, Commissioners. It's very nice to see you. I'd like to introduce myself as I hope to be seeing more of you. I'm Dr. Tammy, PhD, Douglas City. I was the former Businesswoman of the Year. I was the Business Advisory Committee to the President, National Leadership Award, and I received the Congressional Medal of Distinction. Only woman in history to receive that. I am the former CEO and Queen of Dragons in Shasta Lake. At the time, it was a medical cannabis only storefront. During that time, I received recognition for community service for the club under my direction. Business of the Year Award from Shasta Lake, the Shasta County Board of Supervisors, the California Assembly, the California Senate, and Congressional from Doug LaMoffa. The Shasta County Sheriff's Department, signed by Sheriff Basenko himself, and the Shasta Lake Chamber of Commerce. That was prior to the legalization of Prop 64. I own the Red Barn, as well as the property directly next door. And it's no secret I'd like to open a cannabis retail storefront. My mission is to help Trinity County. That's why I'm here. As we all know, cannabis businesses were recently declared essential businesses by the state of California. These essential businesses provide good paying jobs for the local community, enabling them to provide food, housing, utilities, clothing, and a better life for their families. Security and safety are among the common concerns expressed by residents. Studies have shown that where legal commercial cannabis operations take place, crime actually does go down. My project intends 24-hour security, extending the entire neighborhood. Millions of dollars are available to assist Trinity County. However, cannabis retail storefronts must be allowed to have a physical presence, i.e. brick and mortar location, within the local government's jurisdiction and authority. Prop 64 program project areas are youth development, youth prevention and intervention, public health, environmental impacts, social equity, CHP, law enforcement, the DA, etc. These are where millions of dollars can be made available to Trinity County. Cannabis retail businesses can also support homelessness relief, food drives, local events, and sports and camps, field trips for school children, or contribute time in addition to money to help Trinity and local community organizations that serve the county itself. Many know that cannabis funds rebuilt the city of Shasta Lake. I'd like to provide you with some actual figures from when I was there. For my year of 2015, business tax directly paid to the city of Shasta Lake was $243,600. An example of 1 month's funds were, and I picked June 2016 because it was one of the lowest months. 7.5% sales tax was $33,962 for the month. 6% business tax to the city of Shasta Lake was $27,169. Payroll was $8,360 for 1 week. This is cannabis retail with payroll, taxes, sales, biz tax. Now, if you consider a few clubs, this is made for.
Sorry, your time's up.
Okay. But I do, please continue the item regarding cannabis storefront retail to July 9th.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Rachel Wood from Hayfork, and I'm with Bilderberg. This ordinance is very much geared towards dispensaries. It's not looking at other additional retail services like on-farm sales or bed and breakfast, so it's very narrow in scope. I would like to see the scope opened up a little bit, look at different types of zoning in addition to these four. I have a couple more detail-oriented questions like the 500-foot bus stop setbacks with the supply to Hayfork that's opted out of those setbacks for cultivation. Little things where, the regulations that are in there are either copied from state law or overlaid on top of state law. I'd like to see the state law left as is and the local jurisdiction just puts their applicable regulations on top. So zoning, setbacks, and try and be as minimal as possible and refer to the state as much as possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, appreciate the chance for comments. I'd like to, I guess for expediency, I would agree with all of the comments that Kim read off. I have a Weaverville address, but I very much agree. At the top of the list, you know, the opt-out areas are providing some level of harmony now. And to allow retail into an area that's specifically opted out of cultivation, I think is a huge mistake. To address Rachel's comments a little earlier, if this ordinance were to diverge into farm-based sales, I think you're into a full-blown CEQA, cumulative impact analysis. I think it's a completely different animal from what you're looking at right now. So I would actually argue that if you're going to do anything in a reasonable amount of time, that you can't include those things that were suggested. The other points I'd like to emphasize, I think a cap on the number of retail sites is absolutely critical. I'd suggest a cap of 1. If you look at the population of Trinity County, we have 1 pharmacy, right? So it seems reasonable to have 1 retail location. I would encourage that it be in a location that's as invisible as possible if you look at it from a zoning standpoint, so as not to negatively impact tourism. If any of you witnessed the kind of surge or huge amount of tourism we had over the Memorial Day weekend, I think there's an opportunity for Trinity County to capture a lot of those new people that came here because we were open and had a low number of coronavirus cases, and I wouldn't want to see anything happen that deters that. The other list, I agree tremendously with increasing the setback. I think it should be a minimum of 1,000 feet for churches, schools, parks. We want to protect kids. Yeah, I think that's it. Appreciate the chance to comment.
Thank you.
Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
our Zoom is down,
I see that.
and they're working on fixing it.
Okay, so should we keep taking public comment, or should we recess until we find out if we're going to have Zoom back up?
I would recommend that we take a 5-minute break. So
Okay, we will do that.
I'll remember my thought.
Yes, thank you. I apologize.
All right, we will recess 4 or 5 minutes and hope that we'll have Zoom back up and ready at that time.
Streaming will stay up.
Okay, thank you, sir.
No, it's going to be 40 minutes.
I know my sister has custody of her youngest grandchild. And my age, almost my age, 2 years younger than me, and half the son ages to become a teacher. So I'm getting phone calls from my great niece. Just to chat so she doesn't have to deal with her grandmother.
Oh, it starts getting pretty small. That's a couple months in, right? I just want to find out.
Yeah. Looks like we're back on.
Yeah.
She's there with me. We switched it. I'm not sure what happened. Oh, geez. Yes, are we 5 minutes or good? Okay. So.
Okay, we will reconvene the regular June 11th meeting of the Trinity County Planning Commission and reopen public comment on item number 2.
Good evening, Commissioners. Honor Wright, Weaverville. Just a couple quick notes. The first thing I want to note is in section, oh goodness, excuse me one moment, 17.43G.060 operation standards. Letter K talks about commercial kitchens for cannabis operations. Technically, that would be an infusion license under manufacturing if cannabis were, like edibles and things like that, were to be created. So just one little note on that. That goes against state licensing. In regards to the opt-out zones and the question around that, overall, I won't touch on cultivation because it's been past that, but if it's going to be questioned, putting it to a vote of the population would actually consider it to be opt-out. If I don't get a chance to say I agree this shouldn't be here as a citizen in that community, I should be able to have a say as well, right? And so instead of just determining it through an ordinance, actually opting out means we all decided in a majority vote, which seems democratic and fair. And then my last point is about actually what retail could bring, touching on Tammy's point, what retail could actually bring to our community. If you don't know, I do work for Flora, and we do have an office that happens to be sort of a storefront location. We're right there across from the Nugget. And I can't tell you how many times people walk into our lobby thinking it's retail and actually asking if it's retail. Most of the time it's an older generation that's walking in too, wanting to get their salves and lotions, and then other people walking in looking for the medicine. And so all the zoning that's proposed, I agree with. Commercial zoning, highway, C1, C2 is completely appropriate. It would be great for farms to be able to do those bed and breakfasts and farm tours and sell their product right on site. And that would even bring even more tourism. Someone who originates from the Midwest, where this is not a topic that we can really talk about like this and have the opportunity to bring industry through cannabis, it's something a lot of people even back there talk about how great it would be to bring a new industry like cannabis to the forefront. Currently, all of our product that we grow and manufacture and distribute goes out of this county. So we are losing a lot of potential revenue for our county as well through a retail ordinance. So I would strongly suggest that we do work towards getting something like this finalized for not just community members, but for people driving through that keep walking into my office looking for medicine and items of that sense. And then we can also highlight our amazing Trinity growers here in Trinity County. I think that's really important as well, to support a community that deserves to be supported, that has a huge opportunity to bring some life into Trinity County. And I think we should grab a hold of this and really take advantage of it in a good way. Thank you.
Okay. Right.
Good evening, Commissioners. John Brower from Junction City, and a few things within the ordinance as drafted. I also encourage you guys to take this up as soon as possible at the meeting on the 9th. I mean, we're 4 years into our cannabis program here, and there's still nowhere to legally buy or sell, this fine product we produce here. I agree with the previous commenter that there's a lot of stuff in here that the BCC already strongly regulates through state licensure, and it's just redundant for the county to pile on another layer of that. I do have a question on item D. Section, it says cannabis storefront retail license shall not be issued to an individual or a business entity associated with an individual who has violated California Health and Safety Code section 11590 and its provisions. I don't know what 11590 is, but perhaps you guys can make that part of your discussions tonight. Under operating standards, again, most of these issues are already well covered under state regulations. But number C, under operating standards, cannabis storefront retail entity that remains inoperative for more than 90 days from the date of receiving the license shall be deemed abandoned, and the license shall be forfeited. What about seasonal closures? I don't think that 90-day non-operation thing really work in Trinity. We would be, I think we need to have the ability to have seasonal closures without forfeiting the license. The need for this is great, and it's awesome that we're considering allowing it in commercial zoning types with a ministerial permit. But it is very, very important that we also include some ability for farm sales, perhaps with a conditional use permit. And it could be very site-specific, and the Planning Commission could impose conditions of operation on these. But I went to every single one of the scoping meetings to develop this draft, and every single one of them, most commenters were asking for that. And not every site is appropriate, but some are, and they should be given some sort of chance. If a conditional use permit would be appropriate for those other zoning types. Previous commenter said that this should be limited to only one location and well hidden in Trinity County. And I couldn't disagree more. This is an opportunity to showcase what we really do well here in Trinity County. We produce truly world-class product. And this is a chance to connect consumers in an above-board, safe way.
Thank you. Time's up.
Thank you.
Terry Mines, Junction City. 4 years you guys put into this, a long time. I think we've all put in. I think this is a big point in the juncture. I used to not think this would do very well, but the dispensaries in Reading are doing really well, believe it or not. I don't think any of us planned on the situation we're in today. We went from criminal to essential. It's pretty amazing. It's a good way to be. But we realized the importance of this, and this is financial, and in our county, we're still dying at the dollar. And this is a legal revenue stream of money. It's tax dollars. I think, I personally am not interested in opening up this, but I do think it would be a retail avenue, and I think that it's very important. And I think it's the culmination of 4+ years of hard work you people put in. I think it's probably time to get this off your table and move on to something else maybe, but I think This one's pretty much easy. They've already been doing it over in Reading for a long time. It's not a real mystery how they do this. States operating cameras. It's good for the local people here to get showcase their product and get it out there. I think we're going to do really well this year, so please put your big effort in and get this done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners. Lisa Wright from Lewiston. Just to reiterate a few of the points that were made by some of the previous speakers, I would also agree that the ordinance as presented is another form of overregulation of the cannabis industry by our local jurisdiction. I would fully support abandoning much of what's included there. The county really, in terms of issuing licenses, doesn't have that authority under state law. If you look at the Business and Professional Code, you have the ability to do land use permits and annual business license of sorts, but not the actual issuance of licenses. That's really left to the state. So a simple land use permit, one time, together with business licenses annually, where they would present for a fee, present their state licensing, should suffice. Make your land use determinations. That's really your role as a planning commission. Locations, limit on locations. If you're going to look at a limitation, I don't think the analogy to pharmacies is accurate, and I think there's actually two in Weaverville, not one. But because it's now recreational, not just medical, maybe we need to make an analogy to the number of liquor licenses that are here in Trinity County, if you feel the need to put a limit on it. Extending the retail into the farms, I think, is very important. We can draw another analogy to wineries. I'm pretty sure that you can drive up and visit and have tasting rooms, etc. The concept of bed and breakfast is widely accepted and embraced in Humboldt County and has brought quite a bit of tourism and success. And I recall that there was some kind of informal survey, and someone can correct me if I'm inaccurate here, but of the downtown businesses, I had heard that 2 out of 3 were actually in support of a location, even in Weaverville downtown, because we have so many empty storefronts, and the stores that are here need more foot traffic. And a retail location will definitely stop people that are coming here. I see, as Anna said, our floor offices, we see the people just going through and not stopping at times. So we really need them to stop because it could boost the rest of the economy as well. It's widely accepted, and I don't think we should see it as a negative to have a retail location. We do have a number of people, again, walking into our office, and many of them are of the senior class. So we were kind of surprised at first when we started to get more of the seniors in asking about where can I find a retail location. So I think it's very important. Not to mention as well just the revenue for the county. We're in desperate need. The county is way underfunded for the services that are being demanded. Many of which are coming from the groups that are opposed to retail. They still want the services, but how are they going to be able to boost up the economy to support that and to fund the government? So those are some of my items for input on this ordinance, and I hope that you move forward rapidly to make a suggestion to approve an ordinance for the retail. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, Tom Valenko, Douglas City. I don't have strong feelings about the details of this ordinance. I am very glad to see it here before us, and I would love to see it advanced. I think there's probably certain questions that is up to your esteemed judgment. One thing I would change, if I said I don't have much details thing, I'm going to go into details, but I think we have a 500-foot setback. State law requires 600-foot setback for retail establishments from schools and stuff, so I think we ought to just mirror that. I do feel like, when we look at the ordinances we have now and how kind of difficult they have become to deal with, obviously hindsight is 20/20. I do feel like this does look like foresight is coming into focus too. I like the way this is structured and leans heavily on state law, particularly for retail establishments. State law is extraordinarily detailed. Cameras, security guards, all the things that in order to get a state license, you're gonna need to have. So I think having the county just kind of do the land use approach to this. These are the zones it's appropriate in, go through the state licensing process, let the county have access, let the county double check all these things. I like the way this ordinance is drawn that way, and I think it sets a good model for ordinances of this type moving forward. I'm not a big fan of limiting these. I think nature will limit the number of locations we have here. You're not going to see 10 retail locations, and if you do, and if inshallah we get a cannabis tax soon, that's great. I think you might see 4 at the most, maybe 2, I don't know. But I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of them. I don't think it makes sense to limit that. I would let the economics of the situation do that. But I'm glad we're having this discussion. I'd love to see it move forward. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Is there anyone on Zoom? Okay. Who do we have?
Hey, good evening, and thank you, commissioners. My first time presenting in this format, so I'm sorry for being a little bit clumsy. I'm just trying to take a really pragmatic approach to this and look at the language in here. I'm not going to talk about business models or the future of anything other than this specific document. And I have a few things I think either don't align with state law or maybe misinterpreting. I think the finding F right off the bat, and no absence of an absence of regulatory framework, causing cannabis businesses to be unaware of proper operating standards, is inaccurate. So I would prefer that finding F be stricken. The retail in C3, I actually have on my computer right now our zoning ordinances, our land use ordinances. And retail in C3 doesn't really seem to apply. The only place that seems even to refer to that possibly would be the lumberyard piece there. On to the next one. In regulations, the state does require 600 feet from sensitive receptors, which generally are youth-oriented facilities, drug treatment, so on. It doesn't actually include churches. So that. I would hope that whatever renewal process is simple and expedited and inexpensive if their operating plan has not changed. As a cultivator, I can tell you that we paid a rather high cost for really limited, for an operating plan that hasn't changed since it was first developed. Let's see. The piece about in applications, D, is the California Health and Safety Code 11590. I looked that up. That is for convicted drug offenders who are on parole, and it's a violation of not reporting to your local sheriff if you change your address. Like that. Part of the intent of Proposition 64. And the Proposition 64 does not prohibit people who are convicted of drug offenses other than cultivation in the national forest from licensure. So I don't think that really applies. I think that should just be removed. The use of alcohol and tobacco are prohibited in a licensed retail environment. So there's that entire section also, I think it's J underneath operating standards. It would just be stricken because there's no opportunity in the future for alcohol and tobacco to be consumed in a retail environment. If you have private property, you can, and you're not commercial, you can largely do what you want, but not in a retail environment. See also, let's see.
Thank you, sir. Your time is up.
The 90 days in abandonment of a license, 90 days without operating actually issuance of a county license.
You're out of time.
The state will not necessarily give you your license within 90 days. So there's that right off the bat. there should certainly be a relief for seasonal businesses. There certainly is for bed and breakfasts and for lodges and whatnot. Under K, the health standard for commercial kitchen for a retail environment is also.
Your time is up. I'm sorry. Okay. Next person on Zoom. No one else? Okay, with that, is there anyone else in the room? We will close public comment and bring it back to the commission. Commissioners?
I don't know if any of my fellow commissioners have ever been to a cannabis retail establishment. If you haven't, it might be worth doing, just to see what it's really like. And it's not a big deal. You go in and they take, my experience has been in Oregon, not here in California, but it's very, I'm sure for the way it's laid out, it's going to be very similar. You go in, they take your information, they enter it in a computer. The next time you go in, they look you up. They don't have to look at everything all over again. To go into the actual place where the product is, you go through a locked door, and that's the most scary thing about it, is that you have to go through a locked door to get to where the product is. And outside, it just has a sign. It says the name of the store. Doesn't have big flashing signs that says get your cannabis here. It's just a store. We don't hide liquor stores. We don't hide bars. This is legal. We should not be hiding it. And when people say that it can bring people in, it can bring tourists in, it does. And I would venture to say that there are a lot of people that come in to go camping or fishing or whatever in Trinity County that would love to be able to stop at a retail facility and buy something to take to their campsite with them to eat or smoke or whatever. And hiding it makes no sense. That's my sermon.
I have a bunch of detail points. Do you want to walk through this whole thing? Or I don't have a sermon.
I also have some detail points.
Yeah, we can walk through some of it, or we're supposed to be giving direction to staff, so I think that's kind of what your intention is. So yeah, go ahead.
Well, in the ordinance itself, the first section is definitions. There is no actual definition of the storefront retail premises. Someone mentioned that it ought to be a physical building, and I would agree with that. We ought to have a definition of premises that says it's a physical enclosed building, and define what we mean by premises. Does that include the parking, the loading docks? Some of that is included in camera requirements. So when we say we should have the premises under, actually it says the property under surveillance. Property is not defined. So I would suggest you define the premises and then use that term elsewhere when you're talking about what goes on that property. And specify whether that includes the parking, loading docks, the entrances and exits, all of which do seem to be under surveillance. So that would be a definition. So I want to start with definition. Not the definition. Do you want me to just go through this whole thing?
Go ahead.
That's all we go through everything. We'll go through it multiple times. Well, I'll go on to zoning, because that one will be exciting. There's quite a bit of input in the letters that we did receive. I was copied on some of them, I don't know, half a dozen of them, but and I see quite a few more in here, and the notion of the opt-out is pretty intense in that input. So I would like us to say, that consistent with the spirit of the opt-out being the no cannabis zone. It is unfortunately named that it's an opt-out, I agree with that. It's a zone, it's a zoning overlay, it's effectively what it is. And I believe that we ought to apply it here, and that retail is not allowed in the opt-outs. At least no storefront retail. Retail deliveries are, of course, eligible to be done anywhere according to Prop 64, but I would like to see us say that the opt-outs are not legitimate for zoning. As far as the other zones listed here, I am sort of in a page other than the sermon we heard about whether we should be marketing this, and I do have some comments on signage, as you point out, when we get a little bit further into regulations, but I could see, well, first of all, downtown Weaverville is C2 primarily. Downtown Lewiston is primarily C2. Downtown Hayfork is primarily C1. So, however, downtown Weaverville and downtown Lewiston are covered by opt-outs, and downtown Hayfork is not. So I think the opt-outs probably accomplish the need of the folks in Lewiston for sure, and there is a Weaverville letter or two in here as well. Without going after HC, C1 and C2, we leave those in. But add the opt-outs on top of it, then it probably could be sold on. C1.
And,
The C3, there is a stretch.
there is a stretch for C3.
Based
I
on the
agree.
definition of C3, it says, similar uses.
It's
By the way,
more light industrial.
I would like to see a conditional use permit in anything. We do that for distribution. We do that for many of the cannabis ordinances. And it strikes me that there are conditions, for instance, signage we might want to put in. I'd like to see a condition of approval in a conditional use permit that says no graphics, no big marijuana leaf on the side of the building. Or like Oregon, the name of the company. If they have to have cannabis in their name, then the building would say cannabis. But that, and I think that there may very well be other conditions of approval that come up depending on the location someone chooses. So that's what drives me to say a conditional use permit ought to be required for a retail outlet and in any zone. And with the opt-outs, could probably be sold on the zones you suggested, except C3 just doesn't seem to make sense, but I'm not gonna push back too hard on that.
You can, it's okay.
Well, I just think it's a stretch to say that it's a similar use, Cannabis isn't listed in any of them, so it's gonna have to be declared a similar use to, in any case, and C3 is a stretch, but there are.
I was gonna bring up C3 also because it was a city. But definitely we want to see C2. And as you said, the opt-out is covered.
Okay. Anything else on zoning down there? It's quiet down there.
And I think there's an open question about whether all the opt-outs, it's very different cultivation, which is what the current opt-outs are for primarily. I don't know if downtown Weaverville businesses would favor, and we heard some testimony tonight, so 2 out of 3. I assume that some poll had been taken, I haven't heard about it.
And one letter does not, a whole district, does not ask for a whole district.
So I guess I'd like to figure out a means by identifying whether the business is supported or not, before we would decide. I mean, if the residents of Lewiston overwhelmingly don't want it, that's fine. But that might not be the case in other areas like you.
Okay.
I don't have an answer for you.
Um,
I think we need to come up with some approach that would help us figure that out. It might be highly supportive. I don't know.
Well, it's not just businesses, right? It's also residents.
Sure.
There's a lot of residents who want to block off the Main Street. So I think that it's not just the people sitting on Main Street that this affects. There are, for instance, there are setbacks for reasons because it affects neighbors. So I would suggest that we be consistent with the opt-out, but if there's a way to gather data as you go forward and find out if the people in the district, I mean, Hayfork stood up and said they don't want to opt out at all, right? So let's find out what the people in Waverly want. But it's clear in Trinity Center, Coffee Creek, and Lewiston, it's very clear that opt-out should be retail free. Those opt-outs are straight.
And we have in different meetings at different times, even in the office, we do have folks that come in, and in some cases, they're wanting to appeal cultivation license, and they're running questions about it, but they say, when are you gonna get retail? So we do hear in meetings and in office visits, folks saying, please get retail in Trinity County, because we're having to go to Humboldt or Reading, and just,
Oregon.
Or Oregon, but we do hear that. So, I think not just the businesses, but we hear it from folks that maybe I don't want the cultivation near me, but please get a dispensary or storefront.
Well, I think the same attitude is what passed Prop 64 in the first place.
Right?
People wanted access to their marijuana and could care less where it came from, other than the terroir, Trinity. But I think that this is going to get you retail. We're not saying not retail, we're saying where to put it.
Where to put it? The majority of our commercial properties, in Lewiston, Coffee Creek, Trinity Center don't want it, but in Weaverville, we have such a high concentration of commercial properties, and nobody if they don't want it in a historic district, fine, but to rule out all Weaverville without getting the input, that's a concern.
That's fine, but it's not all Weaverville, it's the outlet. Okay. And I support it. Get data. Get data. Next section, if you want me to keep going. Keep going. Roll. Is regulation, section 30.
The 6 a.m.
Yeah.
Is that in order?
No,
That's the regulations.
Okay. Yeah, I brought that one down too.
Bump that one back to 9.
I think 9 is.
The general is 9 a.m. to 9 p.m.
I would have a question there though, if that 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. if that comes from state law.
It does.
Because if that's state law, I don't really know that we would need to change it. I doubt that many of those businesses would be open. It just seems kind of like a copy of the liquor law where you can only sell alcohol from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. There's only a few hours with alcohol, but that seems what it is to me.
Rather than,
So you
that
can't
it
sell
must
it.
be open from 6 a.m.
Yeah, that it's not saying that you have to be open, it's saying that you cannot sell it from in the middle of the night. So you don't have.
Okay, that makes sense. That's a rationale I can accept.
So I guess that would be up to Western side, but it seems like a redundancy.
Okay, in that same section of regulations, paragraph G, which is setbacks. Again, I think we should be consistent. We have 1,000 feet. It's true, the state minimum is at least 600 feet. The state says it's at least 600 feet. We have 1,000 feet for our other cannabis ordinances, and I think this one should be consistent at 1,000 feet. For churches, schools, youth oriented, 500 feet from authorized bus stops. And consider a setback from neighboring residences. You know, lots of people say, yeah, I'd like to have retail available in the county, but I don't want it next door, because they're open to, from 6 to 10. Okay? And, so I don't know, it's, if we need to say resident, but again, if it does creep into Weaverville on Main Street and the houses are one block, they're right behind them, there's residences, then maybe there needs to be a residence setback.
I want to make sure that you are aware of the fact that the Hayford School Board, Mountain Valley Union School District did send a memo to the planning director, previous planning director, that that they would not be, that they would support any variance to the setback that
For West Branch.
for West Branch, yes. So
And I think the variance
we're
process.
opting out of the bus stops. 600 feet.
Just the bus stop.
Just the bus stop, yeah. And I disagree that, what is the setback from schools and youth-oriented facilities for liquor stores?
It's a good question, we can check into that. Back to you on that next meeting.
Thank you.
Could we also have a little GIS analysis done that would basically put circles around these types of facilities?
Probably exists, because we did it for the last.
Did we actually do it?
At one point, someone brought one in.
I don't.
It must exist, but we did.
Yeah, we drafted a few. They
It would be nice to
weren't-
see if, you know, how much of,
You have 1,000-foot setbacks for a lot of these things, there's no properties that are even qualified.
that's my concern.
It's too much.
I would say that we do need to at least have the 600 feet, 500 feet if it's not up to the state requirements.
Yeah,
We need to have a minimum of state guidelines.
Yes,
Right.
we could be more restrictive, not less.
Yes.
I would hate to see us just kind of go random as we go from ordinance to ordinance. I think when we do, the promise of an omnibus roll-up and rehash of all the ordinances when the EIR is done has been laid out there. Make them consistent. In fact, roll them all into one ordinance, one set of definitions, one set of rules. It could be tweaked for different license types perhaps, but one ordinance that will clean it up. We're going to talk about a cleanup ordinance after the EIR is done. In the meantime, I would hate to just make stuff up along the way that's inconsistent with our other ordinances.
Retail is a very different entity than cultivation.
I cannot argue with that.
And so I think it needs its own set of setbacks.
Okay?
But I agree, if the state says 600, then we should say 600.
And
Do we even need it?
it would be nice if we could have the GIS overlay and kind of look at that and see what we are going to end up with. And then we can make a decision on that.
Where would we need that for? I assume it would be, I mean, it wouldn't be any opt-out areas.
It would only be with
Hayfork, Weaverville,
the
Hayford, Riverville, yeah, I was just gonna say Burnt Ranch, Junction City.
I don't think we have any C1, C2. We have storage designation in that. I don't know what.
We'll check into that.
Yeah.
We can use some
See what,
get some mapping.
Keep going?
I was looking at Graham. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to move on the application. Suggestion is we take a look at how alcohol's handled. Alcohol does limit, they put a cap on the number of licenses available in the county for
but it needs to be more than one, this,
So, yeah, I'm glad to hear it's self-limiting. We won't get a
and
whole
I'm
bunch
sure,
of-
I'm sure that it is, because, you know, if you don't make any sales, you're
So-
gonna go out of business.
In many counties, there are 0 allowed. In some counties, just you and Humboldt, medicinal only is allowed outside the cities, in one corporate area in Humboldt's case. How many non-storefront retail licenses, type 9s, have we issued?
No, got your message earlier about that question. We did not have a chance to get that information.
I think it's strikingly like 0.
I know we have an application in right now
Oh, wow.
for at least one.
Okay.
I'm not sure if any others have been issued. Just
So I
one
keep hearing
application.
this incredible demand for retail, and there's not one delivery service that can participate under the license, so except that we can have storefront retail, although it seems a little.
Delivery services are different from walking into a store and buying something.
I do understand that, although under COVID-19, pretty much all delivery, that was a joke. I think that a cap, maybe one tied to population, the way liquor licenses are done. They've kind of reverse engineered how that works with liquor licenses. There are 7 off-site liquor licenses in Trinity County. 3 of them are in Hayport. Good for you guys. 3 of them are in Weaverville. And 1, God bless them, is in Coffee Creek, Trinity Center. So, the 3 oldest ones are in Hayport. And they sort of predate the notion of tying it to the population. And you can't get one in Trinity County now because we exceed the limit, right? The population limit. If we were to tie this to population of something like every 4,000 residents or something, it allows for some
No.
growth. That gives you 3 to hold. Well,
Because that would eliminate Hayport, because we've only got.
But no, entire county.
Yeah,
If
but,
you-
okay, I see what you're
You can
saying.
have all 3 of them in Hayport, although there probably ought to be a distance between them. You also see that in the code, but.
Let's not diss Hayport. Hayport's a good place to live.
I'm not dissing Hayport.
No, it's saying, it's,
No, I understand what you're saying. I misunderstood it, but I
Yeah,
did.
so the effect of it is to cap it, so on that last point, what ABC does do is they limit the number of licenses, and they only have 7. They limit the number of licenses per census tract, right? And you can't have more in any one census tract than you have as a ratio in the county overall. In other words, you couldn't put all 3 in Newport, or you had to do it or anywhere else. But I do think that, you know, if it's self-limiting, that's fine, then the cap won't matter. But in case it's not self-limiting, I think we ought to put one in. The city of Concord, I looked this up, allows 5 in the city of Concord. That's for 129,000 people, and the ratio is 25,000 to 1. We can fix something like that.
Well, the thing is, there are long distances between communities. And yes, we have one pharmacy in Trinity County, and that is the CVS in Weaverville.
Oh, and
But a lot of people get their.
they're gone now?
Yeah, they closed.
I don't understand.
A lot of people get their medications through the mail, and so we don't need more than one. Most people are not getting their cannabis through the mail. And so, I personally would not want anybody in Hayport to have to drive to, say, Junction City to buy retail. And so why not make it a community cap? So you could have one in Hayport, you could have one in Weaverville, you could have, one in Junction City, and I don't know, one in Burke Ranch or something. but,
Well, that is what this effect has. And then-
yeah,
and then-
but
and then-
that's, go ahead.
And so this does put a cap like that on it. It does leave it up to the market to decide where they go. An idea, so if you do put a cap on it, and in order to add value to the license itself, because, you know, when someone closes down a liquor license, an alcohol business, they can sell that license. So if you imagine that happening here, then the cap facilitates that. One county actually held a lottery because if the cap was 3 and 4 people wanted it, it wasn't just who lined up at the door in what order, they actually made it a random who could do it. And one of these cap models does spread it around the county. You can't have them all in one census district. I would think the market would drive that too. If there's a market for one in Hayport, then one will open there, no doubt. And similarly in Louisville, so on. So I think a structure that does limit it so that they don't pop up. You don't want 3 of them in Weaverville. We don't need 3 of them in Weaverville, but I'd hate to see 3 people try to do it in Weaverville, and we go through all the angst and the cost of licensing 3 different ones, only to have 2 fail because there's a market for one. So I think some kind of a cap is warranted in this, as we've heard multiple times, there's a cap model in alcohol. It could be tied to population, which anticipates growth, although our population hasn't changed in quite a long time. Caltrans keeps getting that online. And it could be community-based, I suppose, or district-based, although we tend to mean supervisor district by district in this county, and I'm not sure that's the best way to do it. But anyway, it's some kind of community-based model. It's the population that will draw it, so it's the larger community centers, Hayport, Weaverville. The opt-outs will have been opted out, so it's really those 2, and maybe a downriver for convenience for the people who live downriver, I don't know. Again, that's market direction. But then that's the limit, and I think then we see, and if, you know, it turns out we really ought to have 5 of them in the county, then we revisit that. We're gonna have an opportunity when we do that roll-up ordinance to tweak any of these kinds of laws.
You have to keep in mind that for instance, Humboldt County has one, I can't remember what it's called, that is on Highway 1, and, you know, it's a destination. People go there just to, you know, buy the t-shirt. And so you can have a retail storefront that's out in the middle of nowhere, or like the Red Barn. It's very recognizable, and it can bring in a huge amount of revenue because it can become a destination and someplace that people, you know, it's like stopping at the, you know, if you're on Highway 1 and there's that Bigfoot shop that sells every Bigfoot paraphernalia. You know, I go on Highway 1 just so I can stop there. And you know, it becomes a big deal.
This ordinance says you can't sell t-shirts.
Just cannabis products.
Just cannabis products.
What's a cannabis product?
Is it made out of cannabis? Don't go to hemp. You can't have hemp.
Do you have any thoughts on caps?
Well, I would like to see the market decide the number and location. So, but I think if there could be a cap for the county, okay, or something like that, give some flexibility without feeling like being completely overrun. But I think you're right. There's only going to be a few of these.
Actually, the first draft that I worked on, I had a cap of 10 with some community-based, you know, it's not, you know, okay, so many in this community, and ordinance of floating, because you don't know, where they could be. That was my first thought when I first got at it, and then thought, okay, let's present this as market driven, and remove the cap, so, had that thought early on. I like that.
Can I ask a question? And this may be just naive and not being very bright, but number 10, under 050 under the application requirements, what is an agent for service of process?
I have no idea.
There's somebody in the audience that knows the answer.
Agent for service of process is someone who represents a company that can be served court papers on behalf of the license. CDFA asks for it, and other cannabis licenses ask for it, so they know who to serve if court papers have to be served. Businesses, when you form a business, the same thing. Someone's an agent for service of process.
Okay, thank you very
That's
much.
that's really standard with almost all corporations. You know,
Okay.
They want to know who they got to serve if they got to serve somebody.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, under, since we're in the application requirements now, it seems like a site map. You have a floor plan and, detailed floor plan required. It seems like if the premises includes parking and loading docks and all that, you should have a site plan. Where's the activity taking place? Where's lighting, security lighting?
Okay, under operational standards, the C, if it remains inoperative for more than 90 days, Hayfork does have seasonal closures. We have restaurants that close for the winter season. We have our motel closes for the winter season. And that's more, if they're closed for more than 3 months. And so I think that would be very difficult, depending on the location of the storefront, because I don't think seasonal closures are unusual. And so I think that needs to be looked at, isn't it?
What do you recommend?
Strike it.
Anything, maybe anything remains inoperative for longer than 6 months. Most seasonal closures are less than, they're all less than 6 months, but I think that would be more realistic.
I would point out if there's a use permit rules state that the business is closed for 1 year, the permit expires. So you could, assuming you go with a use permit, I'm sure that you have that. Alcohol licenses do get suspended. KOA, for instance, in Trinity Center has an alcohol on an off-site license, and they suspend their license for the winter. It's a 6 month thing, so something like that.
Okay, so we language.
Do you have any?
Nope, that was it for that page.
So item F, I found curious. All electrical plumbing must comply with state and local regulations. First of all, I'd say gas ought to comply, but then I would say, if you're gonna call out regulations for utility connections, why not call out a requirement for a fully permitted facility on the premises that follows the building code? Is there a reason for picking out utilities, or you found that in somebody else's?
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems to me that one thing you could do is say it must be a permitted structure, which would pick up electrical, gas, plumbing, and a whole bunch of other stuff. And since we may have defined premises, the structures on the premises, we pick that up. Then I have one, it was raised in the audience about the commercial kitchen. So I also point out number J. So there's no on-site sales of alcohol and tobacco products, okay. And no on-site consumption of food, alcohol, tobacco, and cannabis patrons without prior written approval from the county. What is that? What is prior written approval from the county? That sounds a lot, some kind of permit. I would suggest, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, I think that if you wanted to have, I don't know if it's, is it disallowed by state to allow eating at one of these establishments? I don't know. Are you nodding? It's disallowed? All right, so there's no food.
The state is silent on on-site consumption. They leave it up to local jurisdictions.
All right, well, we've said no on-site consumption of cannabis, but if you wanted to buy a coffee or a donut,
You
it's
cannot.
not a cannabis product.
You cannot, in a state licensed retail, you can only sell cannabis products, and cannabis accessories, and branded merchandise.
So
But that's on the premises itself. There's many properties that have multiple activities going.
and hence we need the definition of premises.
Yes.
So on the premises, no food, no alcohol, no that, so you don't need a kitchen, because you can't do manufacturing. Right? So both J and K, you need a little tune-up in that context.
Okay. Now, is that without written approval for cannabis consumption, say, without written approval from the county, would that be like if somebody wanted to have
And after hours.
some kind of a event?
Yeah.
That would be an
That just-
event
I
license.
think that just needs to go away. I think it complicates things. We're really trying to keep this
Well, you do say
straightforward.
no on-site sales of alcohol, tobacco,
Yeah.
and that's not, which is bad, but a period, and then the rest of it then can't happen until,
Yeah.
according to state law.
Right.
And therefore, you don't need a commercial kitchen.
Right.
On this, we're under operating standards, so this is back to the conditional use permit. If you do a conditional use permit, we can address signage there, but I don't think we want big marijuana leaves on the sidewalk. So I'd say no graphics, no cannabis graphics.
Yeah, and the ordinance can be written, we try to do kind of performance-based measures to avoid a CUP, but it could go either way. You have the conditional use permit required with that condition, or it's written in ordinance, you meet the code, you're in line. So
I think that my concern is that every site is different, and without a conditional use permit, we'll miss that. And then you still need some authority to impose signage restrictions like no graphics. So if that were here, then we can tune that up for a specific site in a conditional use permit. You can't make stuff up completely randomly in conditions of approval on a use permit without some authority. This would be something. Believe it or not, that's all I have.
And I have nothing else either.
Commissioner Matthews?
Well, let's see. From the people, we've heard about a few different things. Section 11590, that one, that is D of 040 application. Seems like we need to understand what that is, and if it's not something that the state regulates, do we really want, I mean, we heard testimony that it does not restrict someone from having a license. So, I think we need clarification of that at a minimum, and perhaps it needs to be removed. It's inappropriate.
Anything else? One question, just below that D, we were just talking about number F, talks about transferring, so it is your intent that this license would be transferable, which would mean something if there were a cap. Exactly in cultivation, right? Transferring didn't mean anything until there was a cap. But if there is a cap and it is not transferable without an application, but then it would be, let's suppose the cap were 10, and all 10 have been taken up. And this person in Hayfork wants to sell this license to someone else who wants to open another entity down the street. This says you gotta complete a new application for a new entity. But you don't go at the end of the list waiting for the 10. You get to buy that license and then open a new establishment. That is your intent in this order. Is that how you imagine it working?
I have no worries or concerns if we want to allow it to be transferred. That's absolutely fine, that makes a lot of sense, especially if there's a cap.
Well, what this says is it's not transferable without an application. So I guess
Right.
we're supposed to infer that it
Yeah,
is
that-
transferable otherwise. It doesn't say that. That's what I'm
Yeah,
trying to.
and that's, the way I read it was that with the application, it is transferable, because that's kind of the way it reads.
Yeah, that wording does not work.
And we could, reword it to
Yeah,
say
reword
that
it.
it is transferable with the.
Exactly, with the new application. Is transferable, but only with the application.
And that really means something.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Very helpful.
All right, anything else? And are you happy with the direction you've received?
I am very pleased.
What
Some
about the-
comments from the public and communication.
What about the issue of renewal? We have comments that it needs to be
Simple.
I mean, it's a fairly expensive proposition to meet state requirements and establish this kind of a business.
Isn't the state renewal?
Sure, but is it a simple process or is it a complicated process?
You mean, what
In
would
ter-
our
in ter-
process be? Is that-
Yeah, in terms of the renewal, is it, I mean, it's not going to require, if it was, I mean, even if we decided to do it as a CUP, so it wouldn't need to be renewed.
The license would have to go through renewal as state law.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't need to go back to the use permit. The state, as long as that person is the same person, that entity.
And the county does not have business licenses, so that makes things a little bit more complicated than like a city. Our city has business licenses, we don't have that. So that was written into the existing ordinances, and so it might be a little bit wrinkly there because we don't have business licenses, so that portion was taken out, and that would be an annual. So with the CUP, yeah, that stays with the land, and you can have expiration on a CUP, like maybe 5 years, but you wouldn't want to do that every year. Yeah. Very tough on everybody.
Well, when you say it stays with the land, if that business turns over,
Yeah.
I guess if that business turns over and operates identically in the same location, it would be, the CUP would still be out, but if they change business in any way,
They're not going to see.
well, I guess the planning department would use their discretion to say, it needs to come back here. Or if you could just amend something consistent with the new ownership changes.
They'd have to still meet all the conditions of the use permit, as long as they did it.
It would stay with land.
Stay with land. Okay, so that's all you required of us.
There's a few other things. I mean, we have a lot of testimony about farm sales.
That would be.
So are we going to consider that?
I believe if you wander into farm sales, we're gonna be here all summer talking about where that's allowed. If everyone who's growing in a rural residential neighborhood opens up a retail operation, the cumulative impacts would be potentially significant. We really want to talk about that. I mean, it would lead into a more sequel-like discussion.
Even if it was, say, a CDP or something like that?
Right, and that's
Where you
just
could
what,
fine tune.
That's just what I was thinking, is why not add farm sales, but make it a CUP?
Because it's much, we're operating, so my belief is we're operating under an exemption under the CEQA for these ordinances, which runs out next July. And I think if we do that, we are wading into your EIR territory.
Retail is CEQA exempt. It's an administrative activity.
But micro businesses are not. And we're talking about a retail license that's associated with a farm becomes a micro business because that's a cultivation license. So you're a multi-license site. And I believe that we would be wading into, you often decide on this, but we would be wading into a potential issue that would open up your EIR.
I don't understand why, because, I mean, how many, maybe if they had, 500 people show up at the same time in their building, but.
So you are contemplating that, I think.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
that's a
have been.
problem.
I don't see why it would impinge on the EIR. I mean, it's not like you're growing anymore, or you're using any more. If you're going to be having farm people visiting your farm in order to buy a cannabis product, if you have to do a CUP, then you have to show that you have restrooms, you have water, you have the septic, and you have the space, and none of that has anything really much to do with the whole EIR.
CUPs require their own.
And then you gotta have traffic considerations.
The traffic, the sites, it would, and this, I know in the earlier versions and the drafts that were created from the public workshops had the rule in it. If we try to add the rural and the agricultural uses in now, we are going to be up against that deadline. It's getting this far with this has been a struggle, and this is the other.
Okay, but it is something that we can revisit.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that is the intent.
Okay.
This is to get the brick and mortar, let's get these up and running, and then fine tune, because there will be environmental impacts when you're having those commercial uses. And it happens in non-commercial, non-cannabis type of agritourism. I've been involved in some agritourism, the farm stays and stuff, the same thing. It gets very complicated, right?
Okay, then that's fine, so long as it's something we can, so long as by not including it, we aren't eliminating it. And it can be.
We're not authorizing it, we can come back and do that later.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We're not eliminating it, we're not disallowing it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's my
Do you have anything else?
I guess we need to give some direction on, Commissioner McHugh talked about requiring a CUP for every application, every license application. So we need to give staff direction on whether that's the appropriate path or it's going to be a ministerial act. And that's a pretty important one. And we know CUPs are, reasonably expensive and time consuming for staff and the applicant. It's what, a 4 to 6 month period process?
Right now,
2 years.
in the best case scenario.
2 years.
Yeah, it's bogged down pretty, it's right now, they're backed up to that, and yeah, the CUPs, we require CUPs for so many things, and the time and the cost, and that's why it's kind of geared more towards in the draft, just the performance measures. And I think Commissioner McHugh does have a very good point that each site is different too. I understand that.
I personally, I think about when we started with this whole process, we wanted to see everything. And that quickly became very painful. And I would hate to see us do the same thing with this. I don't think that it's really, I think the staff is very capable of drafting this in a way that signage can be addressed as part of the ordinance, and that the director is very capable of determining if something is appropriate. And
Do you imagine this will have more traffic, certainly foot traffic, than say a distribution center?
foot traffic?
Or any traffic?
Well, yeah, a distribution center, yeah, it will have more traffic probably than a distribution
And
center.
that would
Well,
be-
I'm not sure we need to do the COP on distribution centers either.
Well, we did.
I know we did, but,
I would, I can definitely see where a CUP would be beneficial. I mean, you can, but I think if we err on the side of caution when it comes to signage, when it comes to setbacks, those kind of things, then maybe we could get away from the CUP process. But if we start, if we don't put all that into the ordinance, then it'll be too open-ended in the restrictions. We need the conditions written into the ordinance.
Performance measures.
And then we can, most of our conditional use permits, most of the ones we see, the conditions are almost always the same.
right.
It's a pretty standard thing, really, what we're looking for to say that this will fit. And if we can come up with that, put it in the ordinance, and make it compliant, then I would be a little more able to go without the conditional use permit. But other than that, I think it would be a good requirement, just so we don't end up with a really bad fit.
Well, of course, one of the major benefits of a conditional use permit is it requires a public hearing. And the public would weigh in on whether it's a good site or not for a retail outlet. So,
Because this process, basically, I mean, there's no notification of neighbors under a license, a ministerial license, so it seems like the public would probably like to be able to voice their opinion.
Public seems to like to voice their opinion on all these things.
Okay, so I'm hearing C.
Are we?
I mean, I guess it's a little, there's some situations that are a little different. I mean,
They're all-
in an established, retail area downtown, people expect a business to be there. But, we know a lot of things, highway commercial is scattered in a lot of places that people, that's right up against residential. There could be issues with that.
So,
We'll give it a shot and see. I'm hearing some mixed messages here, but we'll
I,
do the best we can.
do we want to kind of try to reach to consensus on whether we believe there should be a conditional use permit required? And then let staff go with that, or if you want them to come back with this with multiple options.
Yeah, we can come back.
Downriver community would love to be represented on such an important decision.
talk to your supervisor.
But,
Another option is a director's use permit,
Which becomes appealable.
which becomes appealable.
That doesn't.
Folks
have
are
a public
noticed, it can be conditioned, and it can be referred to the planning commission. for public
Yeah.
hearing.
Well, and there's a, we can publish a notice, and we can hope people read the fine print and submit something, but.
We'll do adjacent landowner notifications.
I think that's a good compromise.
Right, so I'm, at this point, I would be in favor of conditional use permit. Just because I don't see a huge volume of conditional use permit applications for this license type. I don't.
Except that people are saying that it takes 2 years to get one right now,
Yeah,
which
that's-
is completely unacceptable
Yes.
if someone wants
That's
to.
unacceptable for any conditional use
Yeah,
permit.
so I wouldn't burn this ordinance with that failure of the department, if it would be so problem.
Ouch.
We'll get things out faster, right? So. Sorry.
No, it's true, it's okay, we all know.
So,
Get some more staff, we need to get you some more staff.
Yeah, I love that.
so what do we,
I'm in favor of the director's use permit. I think that's a good compromise.
I would support that as a compromise.
I still like CCTV,
yeah, I think
Could be.
if you come,
threshold.
if you can, I would be comfortable with that if we had a threshold. If you could meet this criteria, we could go with the director's use permit. If not, I think there's no need to permit. If you could come up with that language, we could look at that.
Yeah, that works.
Anything else? Do you have enough?
I have enough, yes, thank you.
Okay. With that, we will move on to agenda item
Then you
number
wanted
3.
to know when we.
Yes, date.
Oh, a date.
Continue to a date.
Do you think you can get this done
Pull this off by July?
by July 9th?
We will give it a shot,
We
and we can always continue it from that date too.
would you like to do that, or would you rather we just put it to like what would it be, 23rd?
I would prefer that it continue to July 9th. However, again, if there's still things to work on, if we continue from the 9th, we are unable to get this done, we can continue to a later date at that time.
Okay. So, we're going to make that.
I'll make a motion to continue this item to July 9th.
I'll second.
The only advantage of, which you can't just ask for because you don't have enough to do, to not being date certain is that the public will be re-notified that it's going to come with this very popular ordinance going to come up again. So if you see value in noticing it, I suppose you can notice it anyway.
Yeah, we can notice it.
But,
We often will put notices in, we just don't, we don't need to, but just to let you know.
okay, so I think that's a good idea, to
Okay.
notice that the subject comes up.
Okay. So, we have a motion and a second. We need to, this doesn't need to be roll call if we're not on TV tonight. So, motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Correct. Agenda item number 3. Do we need to take a break and fix Zoom, or are we
We're still zooming.
still up and going?
We're still zooming.
Okay,
Yeah, then we'll redo.
you're up on item number 3.
All right, item number 3 is a commercial cannabis variance. The number is CCB 2002. It's located at 151 Rose Lane in Hayfork. Staff received one public comment from the neighbor to the south of the cultivation site, which was in support of this variance request. Staff was able to meet all required findings and recommends approval of this variance request. The applicant's consultant, Deb Riesling, is here tonight to represent her client. Over there in the corner. And that's it. Do you have any questions?
Okay. No questions of staff? We will open this item to public comment. Would anyone like to comment? Anyone on Zoom like to comment? Okay, does anyone have any questions of the consultant? Okay. With that, we will close public comment and bring it back to the commission.
I would like to move that we approve commercial cannabis variance CCB-20-02 to reduce the cultivation site setback at Trinity County Code 17.43.050.A .8 from 350 feet to 300 feet from the residence located on APN 017-430-15-00 and from 350 feet to 110 feet from the residence located on APN 017-430-45-00, subject to the findings of fact and conditions as stated in the staff report.
We have a motion.
I'll second the motion.
A motion and a second. Any further comments or competing motions? All right. Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item number 4. Initial variance CCV-20-03.
Commercial cannabis variance 20-03 is located at 75 River Cliff Road in Mad River. Staff received 2 public comments, one from the neighbor located directly northeast and one from the neighbor located northwest of the cultivation site. Both comments are in support of this variance request. Staff was able to meet all required findings and recommends approval of this variance request. The applicant is here tonight, yes, as well as their consultant Flora. And Kim would like to speak on this as well.
We did originally have when we put together a staff report, we had some questions on setbacks from the river and where the high water mark was and the setbacks were being met. There's a condition putting in, I'd like to remove that condition. The applicant had an engineer go out to the site last Tuesday. That engineer is working with Department of Fish and Wildlife to make sure everybody's on the same page about where the high water mark is for the cultivation setback. We're confident this will be addressed. If it's not, we have the ability to possibly condition the license if needed. I don't think it will be, but I don't think it's appropriate for the variance. And again, I feel the matter has been taken care of.
So you're suggesting we strike item 6?
Please.
Or condition 6?
Condition 6?
Yes, that's condition 6 she's referring to. You can add that to your motion.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so any questions, staff? All right, with that, we will open this item number 4 to public comment.
Good evening again, Honor Wright with Flora. I want to thank Director Hunter for actually striking condition number 6. We did send that report, and I have extra copies if I can hand them, from Gregory Engineering from that site visit on yesterday. It's been a long week. Who do I usually give these to? Thank you. Really, you can take your time to look through this. On the back page, it talks about the actual measurement and working with Matt Mitchell from Region 1. So I do agree with striking that condition, and I do want to thank Director Hunter for that. Other notes I just want to make, this is a very straightforward variance. All letters are letters of support. This is a small parcel, so this literally cannot be moved anywhere. But the 30-foot property boundary has also been met. So all proper setbacks are met. CDFW non-agreement was issued earlier in April. Water board's in compliance, and CDFA is just waiting on this to be approved to continue on through that process. So I would agree with staff's recommendation of approval, and hope you guys do the same. Do you have any questions for me at this time I can help you answer?
Any questions of the consultant?
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any further public comment? Do we have any public commenters on Zoom? Okay, we will close the public comment and bring it back to the commission.
Okay, nobody else is going to speak. I move that we approve commercial cannabis variance CCV-20-03 to reduce the cultivation site setback in Trinity County Code 17.43.050.8.8 from 350 feet to 70 feet from the residence located on APN 018-470-29-00 from 350 feet to 220 feet from the residence located on APN 018-470-16-00 and from 350 feet to 290 feet from the residence located on APN 018-470-21-00, subject to the findings of fact and conditions as stated in the staff report, with the exception of condition 6, which has been stricken.
We have a motion
I'll second it.
and a second. Any further discussion, competing motions? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None? Motion carries unanimously. Okay. Item number 5, annual initial variance CCV-20-06.
This commercial cannabis variance labeled CCV 2006 is located at 2129 Morgan Hill Road in Hayport. Staff received 2 public comments, one from the neighbor located southeast and one from the neighbor located northeast of the cultivation site. Both comments are in support of this variance request. Staff is able to meet all required findings and recommends approval of this variance. The applicant's consultant, Rachel Wood of Bilderberg, is here tonight to represent his client.
Any questions, staff? Okay, we will open the public comment on agenda item number 5. Anyone care to speak? Anyone on Zoom? Okay, with that, we will close the public comment and bring it back to the planning commission.
I move that we approve the commercial cannabis variance CCV-20-06 to reduce the cultivation site setback in Trinity County Code 17.43.050.8.8 from 350 feet to 105 feet from the residence located on APN 017-350-36-00 and from 350 feet to 140 feet from the residence located on APN 017-350-35-00, subject to the findings of fact and conditions as stated in the staff report.
We have a motion
I'll second.
and a second. Any discussion, competing motions? Okay. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries unanimously. Item number 6, annual initial variance CCV-20-8.
Commercial cannabis variance 20-8 is located at 181 Oliva Drive in Hayport. Staff received 2 public comments, one from the neighbor located southwest and one from the neighbor located northeast of the cultivation site. Both comments are in support of this variance request. Staff was able to meet all required findings and recommends approval of this variance request. The applicant's consultant, Flora, is here tonight.
Any questions of staff? Okay, we will open public comment on agenda item number 6.
I do want to mention that the applicant is on Zoom right now as well, Mr. Reynaldi. This is also a very straightforward variance. It's a small site. There's nowhere to move this, and actually, he has been a previous licensee in this, and a current licensee in this program. The reason the variance was triggered is because he is maximizing his 10,000 square foot license. So an extra greenhouse was added to try to get towards that 10,000 square foot canopy. So that's really the only reason we're here, because of that. All letters, of course, are comments of support. Property boundary setbacks have been met, as you can see on the maps. Previously, CDFW non-agreement has been issued. State water board is in compliance, and his state license is currently active. So it's, in my opinion, pretty cut and dry. But if you guys have any questions, I would love to answer.
Any questions?
Thanks.
Any further public comment on item number 6? We have someone on Zoom. You're up.
Is this the, are we talking about CCB 2009?
2008.
No, it's 2009 I need.
Okay, you'll be up next.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further public comments? All right, with that, we will close this public comment on item number 6 and bring it back to the commission.
I move that we approve the commercial cannabis variance CCB-20-08 to reduce the cultivation site setback in Trinity County Code 17.43.050.A.8 from 350 to 200 feet from the residence located on APN 014-290-11-00, subject to the findings of fact and conditions as stated in this staff report.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further comments beating motions? Okay, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, none. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item number 7, annual initial variance CCB-20-09.
CCB 20-09 is located at 240 Oliva Drive in Hayfork. Staff received 3 public comments from the neighbors located south, southeast, and southwest of the cultivation site. All 3 comments are in support of this variance request. Staff was able to meet all required findings and recommends approval of this variance request. The applicant's consultant, Flora, and the applicant themselves is here tonight to answer any questions you may have. As well as staff.
Any questions, staff? With that, we will open the public comment on agenda item number 7.
Good evening. Again, straightforward variance. This is a very small site. Nowhere else this applicant can move their cultivation. As you can see on the maps, all property boundary setbacks have been met. All comments are of support of the affected neighbors in the 350-foot setback. CDFW is still in progress, as is the state license. The state license is currently going through owner review, so the next stage in that. And water board's in compliance. So this is just one of our final moving pieces we want to be able to move forward from and help get this licensee through the process to get cultivating this year. I'll open it up for him to speak after if you'd like, but if you guys have any questions for me?
Any questions of the applicant or consultant?
Thank you.
Any further public comment? We should still have one up on Zoom.
Yes, the question is, I own 230 Hardy Lane, which is right down the street, right down Laurel from there. The question is, how close are they going to come with the stuff to my lot? You know, is it there supposed to be 350 feet away according to the information I've got that was mailed to me by the county commissioner, the county commission by you guys, I guess. And I'm just curious as how close they're actually going to come with their growing to my lot. I don't want it too close, it's kill my property value. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any way you can
I'm trying to look it up.
put an address on,
What is that, this one again?
could you,
Okay.
I'm not seeing Hardy Lane on our map.
Yes, it's not. That's it.
Yeah, I know about the ordinance. It crosses Laurel.
It's east
But
of,
it's not even on this map. No, it crosses Laurel. Yeah.
So he's located on 0142909, which is on.
Yeah, that's hard.
Okay, so the 350-foot setback, the 350 feet would touch his parcel, but there's nothing.
I did not see a residence there. on
No,
the
no,
property,
no
so I don't know
residence
where
there.
his
It's
residence
just
is located.
the very edge of the lot
Yeah, unless
would be
it's
within 300 feet.
within that.
So he's the
sliver.
142909. Okay. Well, public comment is still open, so do we have any further public commenters?
Sure. My name is Colby Ford. I'm the owner of the property that's in question. I don't know of this gentleman's residence. As far as all the setbacks that I went over with Dan Morales and also with the other site inspector, I met all the requirements as far as where his residence is in variance to where my canopy space is. I have a 6-foot commercial fence that goes around my property as well as gates that are locked at all times. So at this time, I'll leave it to you all. But it's far from 350 feet from this gentleman's property. Thank you.
I know where
Any
this
further public comment before we get there? All right, seeing none, we will close public comment and bring it back to the commission.
I don't think he'd even be able to see where that back road is.
Yeah, the concern and comment seems to be more about,
Touching his, how close
well,
to his property.
and possibly lowering property values of his parcel. So the 350 feet barely touches the parcel, it looks like, so.
I don't think that it should be an issue for his property values.
Hopefully also.
I'm gonna go ahead and I move to approve commercial cannabis variance CCD 20-09 to reduce the cultivation site setback in Trinity County Code 17.43.050.A.8 from 350 feet to 230 feet from the residence located on APN 014-290-02-00 from 350 feet to 310 feet from the residence located on APN 014-290-07-00 and from 350 feet to 190 feet from the residence located on APN 014-300-22-00, subject to the findings of fact and conditions as stated in the staff report.
We have a motion.
I'll second.
And a second. Any comments or competing motions? motion?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, none. Motion carries unanimously. Okay. Item number 8. Annual initial variance CTV-20-11.
As stated in the memo associated with this item, upon site inspection, the subject property was determined to meet the 350-foot setback. The Gold site was able to meet the 350-foot information setback, and the application was withdrawn because they were able to meet the setback. And a variance is no longer necessary for this licensee to proceed with their licensing of our program. But because this item was publicly noticed, I recommend that you hold public hearing and close public hearing, and that's it.
Okay, any questions of staff before we go on? All right, you have a question?
Did the applicant make a change, or was just mistaken that thought he needed it?
I believe that was, I wasn't at.
Okay, so, I guess we will open the public comment on just agenda item number 8. Anyone cares to comment? We have anyone on Zoom? Okay, with that, we will close the public comment on agenda item number 8, and it requires no further. Moving on, planning commissioner reports.
I have a question. Do you have any idea when we might hear the rezone on that project in Hayfork? Christina Pierce.
I do not. I can spell it, and please still be working on that project. We know there is a time deadline. We are working with the applicant to fine tune the project description. The reason they've applied for is a special unit development.
Right.
So it's up to the applicant to provide us with a good framework of that, and we have not achieved what is needed yet. So we'll continue to work with the applicant to get to that point, because it's not just for plugging in,
Right.
it's tailor-made and unique. We need a little more information.
Okay.
We updates.
Because she'll probably.
It's a good project, still have to get it done. There's a few rezones in the queue right now, so the more information they can give us, the better.
Okay.
I'll expedite it.
Anything else from commissioners?
Commissioner McHugh, are you not going to be here on July 9th?
That's it.
We're gonna be,
It'll be down to
Hopefully have some information.
Really?
That'll be a rough one to watch.
That has to be noticed. That's,
It has been noticed in Madison paper this week.
wow.
okay. Director's report.
I have a copy of the acoustical analysis for the hospital. Thank you, Lisa. A copy for you, Graham, with the other people, other commissioners like to have a copy of the hospital acoustical analysis.
I will.
Okay, I'll send it to you. Anybody else? Okay, I'll apologize for one.
Yeah, I'll just put it in the, get a sock copy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll
That's
work.
perfect. That's perfect.
You get the printed copy
Oh,
now.
hold on, I'm just bad.
You can mark it up.
So no, I don't have any.
Yeah, electronic is
else
fine.
to report.
Nothing else, huh?
Nothing else.
Are you anticipating July 23rd?
I am anticipating July 23rd.
It sounds like we need to start doing some additional instruments.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
So,
And
okay.
we have we have 2 CUPs going on tonight.
And we have 2 items that we've continued to the night. Didn't we continue the, yeah,
We have the variance.
the variance was
Yes.
continued to the night, and then,
Yeah.
so
Tonight's going to be a busy meeting.
we might be busy. All right, well, nothing
Thank you.
further from Director, we will adjourn. We got out of here.
Just the emails. I was just over there yesterday and wondering.